If you're a fan of analog horror, then you need to watch Somnium DreamViewer. In my opinion, this is the most slept on, pun intended, analog horror series that there is. Today we're going to be breaking down the narrative and theorising where the series could be going. Right now there are 10 episodes of Somnium DreamViewer with an 11th thank you video telling us that there's more to come in 2023. So it's the perfect time to get caught up with the series so far. The first video in the series is titled Overview, and it gives us a brief overview of what the Somnium DreamViewer is and a guide on how to best use it. The Somnium DreamViewer is a brand new product from Somnium Microtechnologies, the sort of big shady corporate body the series revolves around. More on them later. The video congratulates us on our new purchase and tells us we're about to embark on a journey of discovery into the most mysterious realm of all, the world of our dreams. We learn that the DreamViewer scans your brain as you sleep, recording and storing data from the visual cortex. And it sort of looks like a big weird hearing aid. Also, I do wonder why the eyes are censored out here. Is it for the model's anonymity, or is it because it does something strange to your eyes while wearing it? I'm curious. At the back of the viewer we can see two buttons for print and clear. After this the overview goes into more detail on how it works, even though it is pretty straightforward. First you need to go to sleep and then the viewer does its thing, recording images from your dreams, but just before step 2 appears we see the screen glitch. The logo for dreams inside the diagram of the head becomes an eye, with all these brainwaves branching off around it. The eye is something that will come up more as the series goes on, but for now it seems like it could be implying someone is watching our dreams, or something within our dreams is watching us. Moving on, the overview explains in the morning the dream images are ready to print, and this is when you would press print on your device to receive a glimpse into your dream. This is where we're given an example of a dream imaged with the DreamViewer from one of the customers. We see our user Charles Crawford, age 32, where his dream was recorded on October 8th, 1982. As the first image is revealed, the music goes from your usual happy-go-lucky elevator music that's kind of cliche in these analog horrors for now, but always fits the tone of these things really nice, to having this dark, ominous drone that slowly rises in the background. The first image doesn't look too bad, but does elicit some of those liminal space, uneasy feelings we get when we see things that are just slightly off, kind of like the uncanny valley effect. We are then given a voiceover and transcript from Charles recounting his dream and talking us through the images. Just before we go any further, it's here I want to just say that the writing in Somnium DreamViewer is stellar, along with the voice acting, which is equally fantastic. It's really a cut above some of the other stuff that's out there right now, and one of the reasons I really want to make more people check this series out. Charles tells us that in his dream he was walking through his hometown. The only difference was there were no buildings and no people. So this is what we can see in the first image. We have a suburban street with everything but the homes and those who live in them. Charles notes that the cars, roads and trees are all still there, just no buildings and no people. Charles then says something I want us all to remember. He says he walked through a maze of empty lots and streets heading closer to where his house was. Keep the word maze in your head, as this is something that seems to creep up a fair bit later on. We then move on to our next image where we see a street lined with cars. Charles also notes that even though all the other houses were gone, he could still see his off in the distance. But in the street, in front of his house, was a man. And as the images slowly change, we see the man Charles is talking about. Charles couldn't make out his features, but he said his body was made out of blue pieces of newspaper or scraps, and to me, he almost looks like a person made out of paper mache. Apart Apart from the strange material covering this man's body, the only other feature was two bulb-like eyes glowing in the darkness. Now, if you were walking down the street, dream or no dream, and came across this guy, you'd probably be pretty freaked out. Personally, I would have legged it, but Charles says he felt a sort of kinship with the man. The man eventually reaches out to touch Charles, and this is when he woke up. So, this first dream account begs the question, who is this mysterious man, and why did Charles not feel threatened by him? Was this man Charles in dream form, or was this man that possibly watches over Charles in his dreams, making sure that he is safe within them and waking him up when he needs to leave? Either way, the ominous drone and static dies off and we return to normality as Charles stops telling his story. We then return to our elevator music and Q&A portion of the video. And from this Q&A, we learn if your DreamViewer photos come out blurry or smeared at all, it means your REM cycles are unstable, and that Somnium recommend using supplements or changing your sleeping habits in order to get a better sleep. More on the supplements later. Down the bottom, it also lets us know that there is a pamphlet called the ABCs of Z's, which I feel will be a future episode one day, at least I hope. The next question is about images lacking colour, and we are just told to make sure you are wearing the machine correctly, with another guide being recommended called Fitting Your DreamViewer. The last question is, why do I experience nightmares? And to me, this seems like an odd question to ask, as you can have nightmares normally. But if someone is asking, then it means the DreamViewer has possibly increased the number of nightmares they have, or the intensity of those nightmares. This is also where we get the weirdest answer. We are told unpleasant dreams are normal, that you have to keep in mind everything you're seeing is all in your head. And just the way this is written makes it seem a little condescending and like they are treating their consumers like children, not taking their concerns about these nightmares seriously and just brushing them off like a parent would to their child. And as the answer sits for a second, the screen glitches as static screeches and we see the text, "We are trapped with you in your mind, waiting for you to return." Before the glitch ends and we are brought back to the normal Q&A, which then says if you experience an increase in nightmares, then you are to stop using the DreamViewer. And if nightmares do not stop even once you stop using the DreamViewer, you are to call and speak with a dream physician and look into dream suppressants. These are possibly one of the many supplements we were told about earlier that I'm sure Somnium will try to push to its consumers at some point in the future. The last line then reads, "Make sure to call immediately," which isn't terrifying at all. And with that, overview ends, and we are left with quite a lot. Like, who is the man in Charles' dream? Who is trapped in our dreams and waiting for us to return? And why might nightmares increase with DreamViewer use? Having all these questions and needing answers is exactly what led me to binging the whole series so far in one go, so let's get on to the next installment, Legal Action. So, if you had any reservations about going out and purchasing a DreamViewer from Somnium, then you were right. If you didn't see any red flags in overview, then I really don't know what to tell you. Just take your dream suppressants and enjoy it, I guess. But to everyone else out there who thought there was something shady going on, there is. And in Legal Action, we see a sort of class action call to arms advert for anyone who has been affected by the use of the DreamViewer. We are told if you or a loved one is diagnosed with sleep paralysis, night terrors, waking dream hallucinations, permanent nightmare syndrome, or any other nightmare-related disorder while using the Somnium DreamViewer, then you might be entitled to financial compensation. And I don't know about you, but if I owned one of these things, I'd be picking up that phone and giving Hoffman, Palmer and Marsh a ring, because permanent nightmare disorder, what even is that? That just sounds disgusting. Imagine you're sat at the dinner table, eating with the family, everyone's chatting, having a good time, and you're sat there staring at your bangers and mash on a permo, seeing spiders and monsters and all sorts crawling out of everyone. The family dog under the table is suddenly a sleep paralysis demon and it's trying to drag you under the table while dad tries to talk to you about the game at the weekend. Like, it's hilarious to think about, but also absolutely haunting. One other thing I want to note in legal action I find weird is the Free Dreamers Syndicate logo on the bottom right. Like who are they? And why does their logo look like the eye and half moon logo from Overview? Are they to be trusted, or are they actually like double agents wanting us to dream freely, in quotation marks, but actually give in to whatever or whoever is waiting for us in our dreams? Maybe I'm being paranoid, but I ain't trusting anyone in this series right now. We are then told that the number of nightmares has rapidly increased in recent years with the use of brain-affecting devices used by Somnium Microtechnologies. We hear that the symptoms of using the DreamViewer include fear, panic and anxiety, while in more rare cases they can also lead to more serious symptoms. We are not told what those symptoms are for now, but we do hear more about them a little later on, and serious is an understatement. We are told not to delay and call the number on screen for an info packet, and before you get your phones out, I tried already. The number didn't put me through to anywhere, and when I looked it up, I couldn't find anything. But if any of you have any luck, let me know in the comments. The narrator then tells us this corruption of minds won't go unpunished, which leads me to believe the people behind this class action lawsuit know more than they are letting on, and maybe the Free Dreamers Syndicate maybe have more info about what is really going on. Then after all that, we are told once again to try dream suppressants. We then see a small ad for easy dose, maximum strength dream suppressants that are meant to control nightmares for up to 48 hours. From the units at the bottom, we can also see it's a liquid, so we could probably guess they are eye drops. God knows what's in these things though, I wouldn't be dropping them in my eyes, that's for sure. I'm telling you, I'm not trusting no one. Then after this, we are met with some extremely Uncanny Valley face stuff. If you are into Uncanny Valley face stuff, then this got you. We aren't told who these people are or anything, but I'm guessing they're people, or at least one person, who have come to Hoffman, Palmer and Marsh, and possibly the Free Dream Syndicate, to tell their stories and what's happened to them after using the DreamViewer. The text beside these faces reads, "Like lost dogs, they followed us home. Now the house is theirs, a wound opened that will never be healed." And as each line of text appears, the face becomes more decayed as they seemingly burn away into static. So if you're not hooked with those first two videos alone, rest assured it just keeps getting better. Legal action leaves us with some more questions once again, like who are the Free Dream Syndicate? Will Somnium actually get taken to court? As we learn later, they do seem very powerful, and who are these people in dreams following dreamers like stray dogs? Then, once they enter your home and that wound is open, it's never closing back up again. Possibly there are more people like in Charles' dream, but instead of touching the dreamer and waking them up, they followed them to their home and made their house theirs, and now that they've made themselves at home within the dreamer's home, their home can never be healed. Once they enter your home and that wound is open, it's never closing back up again. There's just so much to unpack and speculate about. I don't know if that made any sense to anyone else outside of my own brain, but hey, that's just my thoughts at this moment in time, right now. Now it's time to move on to our next entry, Dream Locations, where we are introduced to the show Interpreting Your Dreams. And this show is presented by, you guessed it, Somnium Microtechnologies. We are told this series will introduce us to a method of dream interpretation from Somnium researchers as they are trying to answer how do dreams relate to waking life and what can be learned from them. The program then says locations play a major role in dream interpretation as dreams contain locations from our everyday lives, which makes sense. If you see something, you can dream about it. but just as easily as that, some dream landscapes can be born from pure fantasy and things we'd never see in real life. We hope not anyway. Part 1 shows us common real-world locations. It's common to dream of your home since you spend so much time in it in real life, and we are told the geometry of your home may change, but your home is always your home. It's like one of those things when you're running in a dream, it could be your house and you're like running down the landing or a hallway and it seems like ridiculously long and like it's taking you ages to get where you want to go. They're kind of alluding to that kind of thing. Once again, this speak of home makes it seem to be super important in your dreams, as we know that there are beings in people's dreams following people home like lost dogs and making the dreamer's house their own. So that begs the question, is your home always your home? Or can it be taken away from you, and what happens if it is? Food for thought. We then see the sky and are told dreams of flight have lasted for a long time and are a favourite for dreamers as it's linked to personal confidence and achieving goals. We then get another everyday location, and that's work, and of course if you're stressed out at your job you are probably going to manifest some of that in your dreams, and I love the little line at the bottom, in a dream you can always quit, as if in real life you can't. Makes dreams sound wonderful in real life like a prison. Anyway, there is a glitch in the static and the music turns once again, and we are shown a location that I wouldn't say is very everyday. This location is the labyrinth. The text reads, "Feelings of guilt or doubt may lead you to the labyrinth. See others trapped with you marching towards the infinite centre, running from their past towards an uncertain future." And this kinda ties into overview, I think, when we saw that text about being trapped in our mind waiting on us. Maybe these are fellow dreamers trapped in the labyrinth, waiting on the dreamer to join them in their march. Then right at the bottom it says, "The labyrinth traps us all. You've been here before and you will be here again." And if that is not utterly chilling to you, I don't know what is. So it seems like your fate is pretty much sealed if you ever come across this location in your dreams. We then get a diagram of a human with this labyrinth pattern within them, as it has taken up their entire internal anatomy. There's more text again which reads, "You are always here. Comforting others on the path is discouraged. The labyrinth exists within us all. Forgetting is a quiet comfort. You will be watched from above, as always." And as this line comes up, the image changes to what looks like someone's face peering over the hedges of the labyrinth, and as we see that, we hear a sort of gargle over the audio. The text then reads, "Time is a solid mass of iron. Your house is the centre point. Place your palms to the metal. Sickness is your way of life. Rot in a dream of awakening." And as this text pops up, we see a massive, all-seeing eye above what looks like someone's POV from the labyrinth, as I'm guessing these pictures are all from the DreamViewer that someone printed off after dreaming about being in the labyrinth. The text goes on reading, "Cast your hot flesh into the teeth of cold iron. You were always here." Then we are brought right back to see school come up and the elevator music returns. And with that, Dream Locations closes, saying stay tuned for more resources to guide you on your journey of introspection and self-actualization. But as we all know, this self-actualization is definitely not good for you. I mean, you're going to end up in the metal jaws of the labyrinth and this all-seeing eye that just seems to consume every dreamer that comes across it. Like, what is going on? And so, yeah, that was a big one. We've been introduced to the labyrinth and been told more about these poor dreamers who visit it, that they are trapped, they are marching towards its centre, and whatever that holds. Remember the mentions of a maze-like street from before? It's kind of, all coming together now. I wonder if the labyrinth can appear as everyday mundane things like streets or grocery store aisles to fool and trap more people. Either way, it seems like your home is your most important point in your dreams and you shouldn't stray too far from it. Now I don't know why, but the talk of iron and metal and not knowing that you're in this labyrinth trapped makes me think of Black Iron Prison, which is a concept of an all-pervasive system of control included in the novel Valis by Philip K. Dick. Philip wrote, "Everyone who has ever lived was literally surrounded by the iron walls of the prison. They were all inside it and none of them knew it." Now that's a terrifying quote in itself, but pair it with being trapped in your own mind, in your own dreams, under the watchful eye of some eldritch terror and the shady tech corp Somnium, and you've got a recipe for some great horror. It might be totally unrelated, but hey, if the shoe fits. Now let's move on to the next video in the series, Hallucinations, and oh boy, it's a doozy. Hallucinations shows us a local TV recording aired sometime in 1985, which is 3 years I think after the Somnium DreamViewer releases, something like that, and it begins a black and white movie playing. We see a kid coming and waking his mum up when he tells her that he had a bad dream last night, and the mum tries to comfort him. She then tells him Daddy is still asleep, we better be quiet, before we pan over beside the bed and see a giant human eye appear in the darkness. Now, I'm not really sure, to be honest, what this movie has to do with the rest of the video, but it's creepy nonetheless, and once again we see that all-seeing eye, as if the kid who was having a bad dream was being watched like those who use the DreamViewer are. We are then told by the broadcaster that the midnight movie will return after some messages. We are asked if someone we love has waking dream hallucinations before we are shown real victims of this disorder. Very kind of them to play this ad during a movie that is quite literally showing a little kid watch his dad sleep, which is just a giant gazing eye. We first hear an account of waking dream hallucinations from Marco P. He's been suffering from WDH for 4 months now, and he says when I drive to work, it follows me. When I look up at it, I can feel its claws sink into my chest and devour me. And that to me sounds a lot like sleep paralysis. If you've ever experienced sleep paralysis, it is horrible. I've only experienced it like twice in my life personally, but it literally does feel like someone is sitting on top of you and kind of sinking into you, and there's just no way you can move. If you've had sleep paralysis before and a pretty creepy experience, let us all know in the comments down below what happened to you. Anyway, moving on, Marco P goes on to tell us, I try not to look at it anymore, but I know it's there. I can hear its wings beating, even over the engine of my car. I can feel it staring at me through my apartment walls. And I've got to say, it's here the voice acting and writing really starts to shine once again. I still can't quite believe how criminally slept on this series is, and no pun intended that time. But anyway, let's keep it moving. Next up we hear from Elena, who's been suffering with WDH for 7 months. And in Marco's case, it sounds like he's been followed by something with large wings, probably like a demonic or angelic kind of being, but I'm pretty sure it'll be demonic. But just imagine driving to work on a Monday morning as some massive Mothman type creature just stares at you through the roof on the highway, tailing you the whole way there. Absolute nightmare fuel. Anyway, Elena says that she sees it every day somewhere in the corner of her eye. At the store, I'll see it slither past me at the end of the aisle as I turn the corner. In the car, I'll see it in the rearview mirror, curled around my headrest. And at home, I'll hear its scaly belly dragging along my roof, just feet above my head. And as Elena's picture disappears, 2 eyes are left gazing at us, as if something is right behind her the whole time. So it sounds like Elena has some sort of snake creature following her. Which one would you rather? Winged creature or snake thing? And I think the eyes linger here maybe because Elena has been suffering it with her longer. Whatever being is following her is much closer to her than Marco. And then we have our last account, which comes with Carol, who suffered with WDH for a whopping 20 months. Carol says, my husband tries to get me to open the front door sometimes. He'll be home from work, bringing back groceries, or trying to see the kids again. He'll scream, plead, even fly into a rage when I don't answer him for hours. I don't look through the peephole anymore. I know it's not him. I buried him last year. Which is just so heartbreaking, this poor old lady. Imagine having the imitation of your late husband kicking, screaming and shouting at you to let them in the house in the middle of the night when you know it's not him. You'd be so tempted to open the door and to see what it is for yourself, but you know there's no way it can be them and that you shouldn't. It's just such a terrifying account and delivered so well by the actor. We are then told about special medical facilities around the country for people suffering with waking dream hallucinations, as we are shown those locations on a map. The narrator then goes on to say that these facilities can help prevent the spread of the disease and the suffering that it brings, which is crazy to think that waking dream hallucinations aren't just for those already suffering from it, they can also pass it on to anyone just like any other disease, which is kind of mind-boggling. Like, how? Maybe it's a hereditary mental illness, or maybe it can be passed on like a common cold, which is a crazy thought. We are then told, remember the entities that you see are not real and they cannot hurt you, as long as you don't believe in them. Now, you see, that's got me stressed. If they just stopped at they aren't real, they can't hurt you, I would have been fine, but it's that line of, as long as you don't believe in them. What happens if you start to believe in them? We then see that this is in association once again with the Free Dreams Syndicate, so they definitely seem to be fighting back against these entities from people's dreams and Somnium Microtechnologies. It's also this video that makes me think you don't have to be using a DreamViewer to experience this stuff. Like we just heard, this thing has the potential to become an epidemic, possibly being able to be passed on person to person. Now that's just my own kind of theory of where it might go in the future, but maybe Somnium are just trying to research it in their own way, and the Free Dream Syndicate don't want them making things worse than they already are. Because I'm sure if there is a disease going around that brings terrifying dream hallucinations to life, that can then hurt you if you believe in them, then we probably shouldn't be in our own heads taking pictures of them and, you know, trying to make them even more real than some of them already are. And of course a lot of this is still to be confirmed. I'm kind of just going off my own headcanon at the moment. I'm just brain dumping all my thoughts and theories right now. But yeah, maybe Somnium aren't the cause, but they could be a catalyst. The narrator then ends with, don't show fear because we are shown a terrifying video where we see what can happen if you believe in your hallucinations and do show fear. We can see Carol is recording the entity at her door posing as her late husband, and we can hear how its disembodied voice is clearly not that of a regular person. It is demonic and, dare I say, dreamlike. Then, as Carol goes to possibly barricade the door with her body weight, we hear the voice become more and more demonic before it bashes through the glass window above and the video cuts off as Carol screams. See, I told you that one was a doozy. It's just crazy to think that this was only 3 accounts of this waking dream hallucinations disorder. To think there are hundreds, possibly thousands of people out there suffering from this in the world. It's pretty mental. And if they aren't careful, it could become hundreds of thousands and possibly millions. Imagine a city full of people suffering from this. What that would look like and sound like. The fear in everyone's faces and the constant screaming in the night. It's truly scary stuff, and it's the sort of potential that this series has. Our next video is the longest of the series so far, and it's called Evidence Tape. This tape is property of the Federal Bureau of Metaphysical Intelligence, so the fact that this agency exists pretty much tells us this stuff is well known round the country and that these metaphysical paranormal goings on are pretty commonplace within the world of Somnium DreamViewer. I've done my best to translate the little motto in Latin underneath the FBMI seal, and the best translation I can get is bright time and space, so make of that what you will. I really love the FBMI emblem that we see here as well, how we have the all-seeing eye in the brain above looking down, the labyrinth on the right, and the pentagram on the left, and then what looks like a DNA strand in the right talon, and something I'm not too sure of on the left. In this tape, we hear a recording from Cole Sharp, recorded on September 13th, 1986. Now, I highly recommend you go watch Evidence Tape or at least listen to it yourself, as it's one of the best episodes. The writing and the voice acting are on point, and it really seems important to the overall narrative. So go check it out, then come back here, or listen to me summarise it, then go check it out and the whole series after this. But I will be paraphrasing a lot, as it's quite a long story, so I'm going to cut it down and just give you my summary. Cole starts off by saying he's noting this down as he believes there's only two options: either he's going crazy or the things he's seeing are real. Cole goes on to tell us he's a bit of an introvert and tends to stay in his own company more often than not. He also tells us that he's a bit of a night owl and he's always had very vivid dreams. And because of this, Cole got super into dreams and began looking into lucid dreaming and how to practice it himself. One day Cole hears of the DreamViewer from Somnium, and for him it's an instant cop, so he orders one. Cole goes on to say the DreamViewer was unlike any other piece of tech he had ever seen. When Cole's DreamViewer arrived, he binge-watched all the instructional tapes and began using it that very first night. He says it worked perfectly as advertised, but over time he started to notice something strange. He notes the inhabitants of the dream worlds he visited became more reclusive, paranoid and despondent as time went on. Cole also couldn't lucid dream anymore, something he was able to do with ease in the past, but he thought nothing of it and continued to use the machine. However, this all changes with one dream in particular. He tells us a story of how he and an older man were trying to survive the cold in an old frozen house sitting by a fire, and at this point we actually start to see DreamViewer images of Cole's dreams. Cole asks the old man, "Why are we here?" And the old man responds, "I cannot escape from here, but you can, if you can break your fate." The man then points out the window to a shadowy door outside. Cole notices there is something just off about this door though. Its corners are bent and it just seems wrong. He also explains that he felt like he had been in its presence before, but just not seen it. Cole eventually wakes up from this dream without passing through the door. He says he can remember the dream, but no details about the actual door. Cole then explains how every dream after this would always end the same way, with him seeing that door on a faraway wall or in the corner of a room, and it would slowly fill his vision and his mind, until he woke up. One real interesting part of this story is when Cole says it wouldn't matter if he would use the DreamViewer or not. Any dream he had, he would still see this door. So it does seem like once the DreamViewer allows you to be exposed to these entities or whatever this door is, it's not necessary after that, or maybe it's not necessary even in the first place. Maybe it is like we've said before, the DreamViewer is just a catalyst. Cole then says 2 weeks later from seeing the door for the first time, he had a dream about being in a car on the run from an occupying regime in a dense city. He's then taken to a safe house where he is told by an old woman the city has been taken over by a group called the Children of Minos, and that Cole was part of the resistance. While he's in this building talking with this woman, the Children of Minos smash their way into the building and chase Cole up onto the roof of the building, where he is faced with a choice. Behind him there are soldiers wanting to capture or kill him, and in front of him, on this roof, is the door. Cole is almost pulled in by the door and opts to open it and enter through to escape. And here the writing is just so great. Some of the descriptions we get of Cole being in this sort of abyss and flying through this void are just utterly fantastic. Cole falls for what he says feels like days. He even says it could have been weeks. He explains how he was pulled apart and deconstructed, being blown about like sand in a sandstorm. I'm telling you, the writing is great, guys. It's almost kind of Hellraiser-y, if you get what I mean. Then, after a while, after this ended, he comes back apart. Cole falls back into his body and wakes up choking on air, thrashing around the floor. Then, when Cole is awake, he checks the time to see it's only been 7 or so hours since he fell asleep, not the days and the weeks that it felt like. Cole then says that this was a week ago, and since he's been staying awake taking caffeine pills as he doesn't want to go back there. Then Cole says just about 3 days ago, in the corner of his eye, he sees the black door in his living room. So clearly this portal of sorts doesn't even need Cole to be asleep for it to appear to him anymore. He says it started showing up more and more in his everyday life, and it doesn't go away when he looks at it. Now Cole is talking as he sees it right now while he is recording this message. He says it's on the far wall of his bedroom, and he describes it as a monolith carved out of pitch black sky. Cole then comes to the conclusion that he has to go through it again. He thinks this is the only way to end it. We hear then what sounds like a door unlocking before the recording cuts, and we learn Cole was reported missing on September 21st, 1986, and to current time, he remains missing. So that was a lot. We've got a monolithic door now that seems to transport people into this crazy void where it deconstructs them possibly down to an atomic level and then rebuilds them back up and blows them about in this pitch black darkness, and you're just kind of particles flying around. And now Cole has entered it again. He's went missing. My best guess is that he is in the same world as the old man now, trapped in the dreamscape, unable to leave, as he will now only be able to accompany dreamers and tell them how to escape. I believe that is what the old man was kind of getting at, although his advice kind of sucked because Cole going through the door didn't really escape. He just kind of got brought back, but yeah, you get what I mean. And also the children of Minos, I don't really know what the name has to do with anything, because in Greek mythology, Minos is known for being the ruler of the island of Crete, and I don't know, he was known for like getting rid of pirates and stuff like that. So, and like slaying a minotaur, I don't know what that has to do with all this dream stuff. Maybe that was just a cool name, but Children of Minos, I kind of want to know more because they really sound cool. Anyway, next up we have Interlude. And I think it's time for a nice wee breather, a nice wee interlude. Let's see what we got. A nice peaceful walk through the labyrinth, while we hear ominous wailing and what sounds like chanting, and every now and then, what seems like silhouettes in the hedges. Not too much happens here, but it's still worth a watch if you want to creep yourself out or get a glimpse at what it would be like to walk through the labyrinth. Anyway, we do get something interesting at the end when the video glitches. We see what looks like words written backwards. Now, I couldn't make this stuff out myself, so I did actually get in touch with the creator to get a better idea of what this text was at the end of Interlude. And they said this was basically an ROT13 cipher encoding the names of the 5 labs researchers in orientation, which is another video that comes next in the order of the series, so this was just a little foreshadowing for what was to come next. So no need to look into it any more than that, but just keep in mind that the creator isn't afraid to chuck in a cipher here or there, and let's all just remember that if another pops up in the future. Anyway, now it's time to move on to orientation and meet those 5 lab scientists. So, orientation is an employee orientation tape that is presumably shown to Somnium new hires on their first day. In Chapter 1 we learn more about Somnium and their overall mission statement. They mention that they're trying to take people to their dreams and beyond. And that beyond has me asking questions like, what is beyond our dreams? Does that have something to do with the maze, the black door, and all the paranormal events? Anyway, for now, let's continue. We hear that Somnium Microtechnologies was formed in 1981 and it is poised to take the world by storm with the release of their new product, the DreamViewer. We then learn about the brains behind Somnium. We learn that they are heralded as the neuroscience whiz kids of 5 Labs. 5 Labs was formed in 1975, named for its 4 founders, which makes me wonder why it's not 4 labs. It makes me think that someone has been cut out the picture here on purpose and they're trying to cover someone up for some reason. We are then shown 5 portraits of the founders, so there's definitely 5, just one that's glitched out for some reason. So we see all the other 4, but then one is redacted. Who is this 5th member and why are they trying to hide them? If you flip the image, pause it at the right moment and really squint your eyes, it does look like the 5th scientist is either called Evan or Ivan, and that the surname is Ingham, so this could be Samantha's husband or brother. We also find out later in another tape about 5 scientists that Samantha did have a husband, but they just call him husband, they don't mention his name, so this could be Evan/Ethan. /Ivan, whatever his name is. Also, shout out to Rain B in the comments of this video who said flip the image. You're a lifesaver, man, thanks. We then learn that 5 Labs received government funding from the FBMI to make their dreams, pun intended, of researching our dreams a reality. So it seems like they took reality a little too seriously and actually made our dreams reality. Okay, this pun is getting out of hand, I'm going to stop. We are told that 5 Labs had significant breakthroughs in dream imaging due to this investment from the FBMI. We are also told that Somnium Microtechnologies was born after they first successfully imaged dreams, as they just knew this had to be shared with the world, and for a tidy profit, may I add. We are also told the DreamViewer is still in the early stages of its development and that's why they're hiring these new employees, so chronologically I guess we can place Orientation as probably the first part on the series. Chapter 2 then goes on to tell us what it's like to work at Somnium, with some shots of a pretty flashy looking office. We are told Somnium put their employees first and that health insurance, retirement plans, paid time off and daily psychological evaluations are part of the standard employee benefits package. Now the insurance, time off and retirement plan I would expect, but daily psychological evaluations, what's that all about? Surely this must have raised some red flags. I mean, this isn't Amazon, how bad are y'all being treated? Or better yet, what are they seeing or experiencing that would cause them to need a psych evac daily? Anyway, let's continue. The narrator then goes on to tell us above all else, Somnium cares about safety and that they want your workday to be a welcoming and safe one. Something is telling me it's not going to be though. We are then taken through the 4 principles of safety whenever you're at Somnium Research Campus. Why am I talking like that? I can't stop. Guys, okay, here they are. Always keep the lights on. It gets even weirder, trust me. The narrator follows this principle up by stating that the campus closes at 9 PM. This means that everyone should be off campus by 9:30 and that there are no exceptions. Why? Principle 2. Stay with a buddy. That's right, if you ever want to go anywhere in the office, be it the bin, the lunchroom or the toilet, you need to take a buddy. This orientation raising any red flags for everyone. Come on, someone. I'm not signing this contract. Now look, it's not that ridiculous, I'm exaggerating, but we are told if you need something that is in an unoccupied part of the campus, then you should bring a co-worker along with you. And we are also told if you are asked to be a buddy by someone, you must make it a priority. But yeah, pretty weird principle if you ask me, and to be honest, if I had mates in the office, we would just abuse this buddy system to go slack off. Oh yeah, I just need something from that empty room across campus. I know you're busy, but can you come with me? Oh, well, I've got to make you a priority. Let's go. Principle 3. Report everything to your FSO. So if you see anything strange during the workday, you're to report it to your floor safety officer. Pretty straightforward. Somnium do seem real into safety. We then hear no matter how benign it seems, the FSO will let us know if evacuation is necessary. I wonder what is enough to evacuate the whole campus, apart from obviously like a fire or something like that. Then the last principle is, don't show fear. And we don't get any voiceover here, it's just don't show fear with some science B-roll and music, and honestly, that was an awesome touch that made Principle 4 make me feel fear. Wait, damn! But yeah, honestly, editing on point there. Chapter 3 then brings us on to evaluation. We are told on our worksheet to fill in the images that do not belong. We are shown a crab, a snake in a tree, and then what looks like a brain scan maybe. Anyway, it goes on and we are shown more and more animals, and each time we get a dark picture. There is kind of what looks like a face getting closer in it. It gets weirder. Set 3 then shows us human anatomy, and then a dark picture comes up and it looks far less human than before. As the contrast changes, we see more detail, and it is truly terrifying stuff. Then at the end, the head begins to tilt towards us, and we are told the assessment is complete. So make of that what you will. Maybe that person at the end is what could possibly be lurking in the unoccupied parts of the office, and why you need a buddy. Or maybe it's something that roams the dark halls after 9:30. Either way, you don't want to run into it, not even in your dreams. Maybe things like keeping the lights on, having a buddy with you are all down to combating these disorders we've seen the DreamViewer users get. Maybe since these workers are working on the product, they begin to show symptoms too, and maybe that thing we see at the end is one of those hallucinations, or what can become of you if you don't follow the principles. Anyway, on to the next episode. We've only got 3 more to go. And now we are on to what might just be the most important video in the series thus far. I feel like this next video gives us a lot of answers, but answers to questions we haven't come up with yet, if that makes sense. But we'll break down the video, then go into what it might mean for the series as a whole afterwards. Okay, let's go. Nesnavka. There we go. That's what I'm sticking with. Anyway, the tape is about a prison built near New Faribault by an architect called Jean-Pierre Albuset. Albuset travelled to the build site and spent a night camping under the stars here to connect himself with the land his creation would be built upon, and we understand he'd done this ritual of his before with most other projects. Apparently during the night he spent at the site, he had a dream, yes, about sprawling, spiralling corridors, waves crashing at the feet of half-submerged statues, intertwined rooms of iron and stone. Sounds a little labyrinthy to me. Inspired by this dream, the next day Jean-Pierre starts work on this build that would be called Nesnavka. In its completion in 1884, Nesnavka would house 999 prisoners in maximum security cells. Here adopted elements of the panopticon concept, which is a disciplinary concept brought to life in the form of a central observation tower placed within a circle of prison cells. So just imagine big circle rooms, cells lining the wall, and a big watchtower in the middle. Guards could see the prisoners, but prisoners couldn't quite see the guards, thus not knowing whether they were being watched at all times or not. If you ever played Callisto Protocol, kind of reminds me of the prison in that a little bit, obviously just very less sci-fi. And it also kind of reminds me of the all-seeing eye, this massive eye looking down the labyrinth. If you ask me, there's too many parallels going on there for this not to be connected. We then get some quotes from both guards about the interior of Nesnavka. Henry Solomon, a guard from 1889, says, "It was a space outside of life. Nowhere in that place was there a mirror to see your reflection, to remind you of your own humanity, nor did the light seem to cast any shadows. We were like ghosts in there. I would finish my shifts and go home, unable to remember what I had done. I did not want to remember." We then hear from another guard who says they often forgot if they were a guard or a prisoner, and that the prison felt like the size of the world. Not the best place to pull an all-night shift, I'm guessing. Then another guard even mentions it was like being in a dream. All men were lost in that place. Maybe Jean-Pierre recreated that dream he had all a little too well. We also learn Jean-Pierre refused to comment on the design and lived alone in self-imposed exile in Chicago. We also learn that Jean-Pierre Albus died on November 23rd, 1890. And that very same night, Nesnavka burned to the ground in a mysterious fire, killing every prisoner and staff member inside. So obviously the prison worked too well, keeping everyone inside and not allowing even the staff to escape. And what a coincidence this event happens the day Jean-Pierre dies. Plus, the place is built out of iron and stone. What kind of fire could spread that fast and burn a place like that down? Later analysis of the building itself revealed a lack of a kitchen among several other notable absent pieces of infrastructure. How did the staff and inmates eat? I get the staff could bring food maybe, but the inmates couldn't have. So how were they fed? Plus, what other infrastructure could possibly be missing? Also, the kitchen would be the most likely place for a fire to start, would it not? But that theory's out the window now, so how did this fire start? Anyway, Nesnavka would later be removed from historical records and redeveloped. Why cover it up? And what was redeveloped on top? Somnium microtechnologies possibly? We'll find out later. And I'm wondering maybe this is why there are so many rules for new employees around the Somnium Microtechnologies campus. Anyway, continuing on, we see credits roll for the short doco, and then we see the TapeShare Pro pop up. What looks like an instant messaging platform where you can watch videotapes together, kind of like how we see ScreenShare today, except this is much more vintage looking. It's a really cool concept. We see a chatter called Arnold the Enigma. He's our skeptic in this TapeShare chat. He's saying there's no way this place is real, whereas we have Beth on the other hand saying she found the tape in the Old Historical Society archives. Do you think they are lying? And then we get my favourite part of the whole entire series. It's been creepy and genuinely terrifying in parts up until here, and then we get Arnold saying, nah, they aren't lying, it's just some kind of fiction, it's like Atlantis. Plato just made Atlantis up as a bit. The thought of Plato just sitting there one day and going, you know what, I kind of feel like being a bit of a meme lord today. I haven't pranked anyone in a while, and coming up with this is just too funny to me. Honestly cracked me up, like that one line, just Plato just made Atlantis up as a bit. That's going to be the most iconic piece of dialogue from this whole series. I hate that. Anyway, moving on. Then we get Beth saying she's seeing a lot of corroborating evidence that it was a real place and that this was 100 years ago, so a little bit of a younger story than Plato's bit about Atlantis. She then says, I think it's worth looking into. Arnold then kind of gives in and says, okay, but let's not go too far on this tangent. I don't think this has anything to do with what's going on. Beth then replies, even if the stories are embellished, there is still something wrong there. There's no way such a huge building was just completely covered up like that. Arnold gives us a good old Arnold response. It's fiction with a capital F. Then Beth seemingly goes on the huff a little, to which Arnold tells her to not dot him like that. Beth then logs off and Arnold tells her to not let the spooky ghost prison get her. So that was a blast, that episode. And I really do believe we could have possibly been introduced to the protagonist or two just there with Beth and Arnold. I really hope they pop up again in later installments, with them going to the site and investigating the building that was developed on top of Nesnavka. Maybe that building will belong to Somnium and they will learn that this prison is in fact connected to what's going on. Because clearly Beth and Arnold are investigating something together. We'll probably find out, in the next episode what Arnold's looking into. And, this is all related. Obviously Beth thinks so, Arnold doesn't, but hey, it's gonna be related, let's be honest. Also, I can't look past the all-seeing eye looking over the labyrinth as well. Very much like the watchtower looking over all the prisoners in Nesnavka. And maybe everyone who died in that fire are now prisoners, but in the dream world. Possibly Jean-Pierre was such a great architect in that he recreated his dreams so well that he allowed some of this other world to seep into ours, and that this was maybe first contact between our world and the dream world that seems to be seeping more and more into our reality. Maybe it's all down to him, he was the bridge, and maybe it's his eye who watches over all the dreamers as they wander lost inside his creation. All valid things to think, I reckon, but for now let's keep moving on, because next up we have FBMI Conspiracy. We get more from Arnold, and we see and learn what him and Beth are actually looking into, and hey, it's going to connect back to Nesnavka and Somnium Technologies. I don't know why I'm talking like this, let's go. And in this part we see another video share from the one and only Plato done it as a bit Arnold the Enigma. So it says he's the one uploading this one, and it seems like we are in Beth's end maybe as she is downloading it to watch. I do feel like Beth is going to become the protagonist for sure, I don't know, that's just something I feel like, and this is probably Arnold trying to get her back onto what he thinks is the right track of investigation to find out what's going on with Somnium, the FBMI, and everyone's dreams. We see that Arnold made this video as part of a real conspiracy series he must have going, with Beth maybe being the one helping him finding the good stories and stuff like that. He's probably a bit of a YouTuber. Respect that. Respect that. I'm really loving Arnold, guys, I can't hold it back. The title of this episode reads The Death of Leonard Lang. We see that the FBMI was established in 1946, and we learn that the FBMI's mission statement is to protect the American people from paranormal threats. So we can definitely establish that in this world of Somnium DreamViewer, the US at least is pretty open about there being paranormal events we should be concerned with. Which begs the question, what else is going on in this world? I'm sure that the FBMI wasn't just created to watch over Somnium and people's dreams, it was created way before that. So, what other paranormal stuff happened to need the FBMI to be formed? Food for thought. Really just adds to the world building of this world, and it's why I love it so much, and it's why I'm trying to get everyone else into it as well. Interestingly, this video says was as in the past tense, as if they no longer look to protect people from paranormal threats. Either by this time the FBMI are gone, or Arnold the Enigma has lost faith in them. I'm guessing he's lost faith as he's into his conspiracy stuff and would never trust a government agency. That boy Arnold. We then learn that there was a secondary mission for the FBMI, learn how to wield those paranormal threats for our own benefit, and this is where it gets juicy. This is what leads to a temporary partnership between Somnium and the FBMI, as the FBMI might have discovered these things, but Somnium might hold the keys to controlling it, which means Somnium really have the FBMI over a barrel. We then see the FBMI headquarters and it's chilling. Instead of the Pentagon, they have the pentagram, which is just, do I really need to say anything about that? It's truly a trying sight, especially the scale of this building compared to everything else around it. If you've got megalophobia, this is probably weirding you out by now. We then get introduced to the directors of the FBMI, William Leike, Jacob Kessel, Martin Webb, Flynn Fetcher, Samuel Mann, and finally the director from 1972 to 1980, Leonard Lang. We learn that the FBMI has maintained an interest in the study of dreams since the 60s. We also learn that in 1975 the FBMI entered a contract with 5 labs, and it once again reiterates 4 researchers who are at the forefront of dream research. As we know, 5 becomes Somnium, and there was a 5th researcher who they're trying to cover up. 5 years later, in 1980, once the contract was complete, the researchers from 5 then formed Somnium to continue their work, now out with the FBMI, so they could really go out and do whatever they wanted. The FBMI never officially said anything, but sources within Somnium stated there was no further desire to work with the government. Maybe they just didn't want people looking over their shoulders anymore, or if there was power to be wielded, Somnium wanted to wield it for themselves. Leonard Lang, however, is quoted saying, obviously we'd rather they were working for us, but they wouldn't listen to reason. So maybe the FBMI, through their research with 5, learned something or saw something that caused them to want to either shut down the operation or take it in another direction, and 5 didn't want to follow their lead and went off on their own. Now the FBMI would be in the dark to do their research and would have to keep an eye on what they were doing through other means. I wonder what it was that the FBMI saw that made them butt heads with the researchers. And also, that 5th redacted founder of 5 Labs, could that be someone related to the FBMI, or who probably sided with the FBMI and was like, yeah guys, look, we need to slow down, so they've kind of cut him out the picture? Just, once again, food for thought. Anyway, since they had no legal basis to stop Somnium from researching dreams, the FBMI spied on them constantly. Dr. Robert Fowler, who is a Somnium founder, stated to a colleague that the FBMI was trying to get their hands on their new dream imaging technology, which we all know as the Somnium DreamViewer. To which my response is, why didn't they just wait until it hit stores? It's coming out soon, just be patient, you know? And as we know from previous videos, the FBMI shutting this project down would have definitely been a good thing, but also if they weaponised this technology, it would have been an extremely bad thing. We then learn in November of 1980, a team of 3 people were apprehended by Somnium campus security while attempting to photograph private documents and place wire traps. The 3 were arrested and later found to be hired by the FBMI, so egg on your face for Lang and the boys at the FBMI on this one. We then see the 3 men who were apprehended, Lloyd, Powell and Parker, and I don't know why, but all 3 men to me just look like they're from different time periods. It's weird, right? Just a stupid little thought, side note that doesn't mean anything, but I for one think it's really strange. How crazy would it be if the FBMI knew about time travel or how to manipulate that and went through different time periods, pulling prisoners from different time periods and using them as a kind of Suicide Squad spies for their shenanigans? I don't know, man. I'm world building for myself over here, okay? Anyway, let's keep it going. This undoubtedly stands for New Faribault Police Department. New Faribault being the site of Nesnivka, where I believe Somnium built their research campus, right above where Nesnivka used to be. The connection between Dreams and Jean-Pierre's prison is still unclear for now, but Somnium built their campus there for a reason. As the video carries on, we learn that the 3 men suffered from severe hallucinations and shared delusions over the following weeks after being arrested. So it begs the question, what did they see in the Somnium campus, or were they even used as test subjects for the DreamViewer before being handed over to the cops? Or whatever is hiding around the campus halls after 9:30 PM got to them before security did, and this is the consequences of that. Should have followed the 4 Ps. What is extremely interesting though is that these men's shared delusions involved a 4th burglar on the team. So, was there a 4th man with them and he maybe stepped through the black door? Or was someone or something from the other side joining them on their quest against Somnium? Maybe even the 5 Labs researcher who's being covered up. Was it them? Both Somnium and the FBMI denied the existence of a 4th burglar, which is weird to see them both agree on something. So maybe this was just a delusion, or maybe Somnium genuinely only saw and found 3 of them. The FBMI maybe just want to cover it up more about the operation, so it makes sense for them to deny it, or maybe this 4th person is still inside the Somnium campus being tested on, but for me, I'd like to think there was a 4th and they stepped through the black door to escape. We then get a quote from Sam Parker, one of the burglars, which reads, "I still have a dream about that lab, running through those corridors alone. Why did we have to go in there? Why did we have to open that door? Where could this door lead? Is it the same black door from evidence tape? Or is this just a door at Somnium Microtechnology's campus that leads to a classified dangerous part of the building? Let me know what you think." Anyway, the whole incident received very little media attention and was covered up quickly by both Somnium and FBMI. Things get even more interesting when we learn that in December of 1980, the entire board of directors in the FBMI had begun to complain about experiencing constant nightmares. We then learn that presumably because of this, the FBMI director Leonard Lang summoned Somnium founder Dr. Robert Fowler to come to his home for a private meeting. There was no official transcript of the meeting between the two, but going off of Lang's personal journal, it's believed he asked if Fowler was behind the nightmares and if they could be stopped. Fowler is said to not give an answer and leave. Then, the next day, Leonard Lang was found dead in his attic. Fowler denies ever attending the meeting, and multiple witnesses confirm his alibi that he never left Somnium Research Campus that day. But what if he had another way of getting there and back quickly and quietly? Like a door perhaps? And just once again we are told that the Somnium Research Campus is a new Fairbolt, same place as Nezkva, so yeah. Anyway, we are told security footage showed no intruders entering the home, and investigators quickly ruled the case a suicide, although according to leaked autopsy reports, there was a total destruction of Lang's spinal column. Now what in the world could have caused that? It would have had to have been a significant impact, like a car crash or a fall from a high height or something along those lines. How does that happen in one's attic? After Lang's death, the FBMI eased off of Somnium and kind of let them be, so this message Somnium definitely sent was heard loud and clear. We're then told Anne Boyle was sworn in as FBMI director in January 1981. The time this video takes place is just before the release of the DreamViewer, as they tell us this story is still developing. We're then told to stay tuned to VideoShare channel for updates and to spread the truth. I tell you Arnold, you better watch your back. So clearly Arnold is on to Somnium with all this stuff, and Beth is definitely onto something with the connection to Nezkva, whatever it is. Let's hope Arnold comes round to the idea and they can both butt their heads together and get to the bottom of this one. They'll just need to make sure they don't get seen under the watchful eye of Dr. Fowler. Anyway, we are finally on to our last part of the series for now, and that is Neurocon. This is basically Comic-Con for neuroscientists, I'm assuming. In this part, we actually hear from Dr. Fowler as he talks about the early stages of dream imaging. We get some shots of where the 1982 Neurocon is being held, and I'm sure you hear someone at the start saying it is great here in Seattle before being cut off, so we can guess that Neurocon takes place in Seattle. I don't know if that will mean anything down the track, but just keep it in mind. We then cut to a slide telling us Dr. Fowler is up next to talk about non-invasive practical dream imaging. Wonder what invasive imaging looks like. Onto the talk, we actually get to see Dr. Fowler giving his presentation. It's not just audio or anything like that, but it has to be one of the creepiest presentations ever. He stood there like a shadow, going over all these sorts of diagrams of the brain. I won't tell you exactly everything he says, we'll pick out the highlights and talk about it, but definitely make sure you go check out these videos yourself, as there is stuff I will definitely miss. I find it really creepy the way the light reflects off his glasses and he just looks like this dark mass with two small white eyes. Surely that's intentional, because bloody hell it's effective. He first goes on about Somnium's mapping techniques and waking perception. See, when we are awake, waking consciousness is straightforward, it's organised, meaningful and clear, it is perceived as real, and it is marked by a familiar sense of time and place. Dr. Fowler talks about how they compare this to dream perception, along with some other psychological dream jargon I'm nowhere near qualified to talk about. He then shows us the current methodologies like EEG monitoring and MRIs, explaining how they're too slow and imprecise to accurately measure neural signals that they need to access. Dr. Fowler then says something super interesting about Somnium's medical technology team, name dropping Mrs. Ingram, as you'll remember as one of the 4 of the 5 of 5 labs. He mentions her husband is helping her make tremendous strides in neuroimaging with great accuracy. So is it Ingram's husband who's the 5th founder who is now covered up for some reason? We'll see. Maybe those great strides led him somewhere he doesn't want to be. Anyway, Dr. Fowler basically notes that seeing your dreams is awesome, and you know, this is what the DreamViewer is sold on, being able to see what goes on in your head at night. Which is, look, it's cool. If this was real, people would buy it. I ain't touching it. But what they're actually trying to achieve is understanding where dreams come from. So yeah, seeing what's going on is all fine and dandy, but he wants to know the where and why. Then he goes on about dream synchronicity experiments, and this is interesting as we do hear similar things from everyone who uses the DreamViewer, and with the results in their tests through monitoring and amplifying test subjects' brainwaves, they noticed that all subjects did see similar things across all their dreams, things like a black dog, a dagger. I wonder if anyone saw a black door. It wasn't just that they all saw a black dog with a dagger in their dreams though, the dog-like creature acted the same way in every dream, which is crazy. Fowler goes on to say amplifying certain waves and frequencies allows for on-demand recreation of specific dreams, which is probably what they've done to the FBMI board, like, changing the frequencies a little bit to make them all have the same sort of nightmares. He brings up a table of dreams they've recreated. Interesting that we see ice caves. If you remember from evidence tape when we first heard of the black door, it was after the dreamer emerged from an ice cave. And also notice the mention of a hedge maze too, yet again more mazes and more nods to the labyrinth. It's awesome to see all these things in other locations, could probably be in future episodes too. I really want to see reactor and mine shafts. I think that would make for really creepy episodes. Anyway, Dr. Fowler concludes with saying they're still not sure of the true potential of this discovery, but every day they are taking great strides in their research. For me, some of what he's saying is probably true, and then some of the other stuff he's saying is a big steaming pile of I think he clearly knows how to use this technology to great effect, like how they used it on the FBMI, and he's probably playing dumb a little bit. Fowler does seem to take a dig at the FBMI as he says detractors of their work will tell them they're misguided, but he closes with, but is it not the nature of man to follow his dreams? Which I have to say that's a cool line, bro. That's a good line. Keep that. And by that point, Dr. Fowler is a complete black shadow of a human, becoming something else. Thank you and applause. And that does it now for what we have so far on Somnium DreamViewer. Now that we've broke every episode down and found some stuff out and pieced some stuff together, let's have a little quick overview of everything so far, and then we'll theorise about where it might head going forward. So 5 labs and its 4/5 founding scientists begin looking into dreams and researching what the meaning behind our dreams are and where they come from. The FBMI catch wind of this and think, okay, let's hire them to get on board to research this stuff for us. Then for some reason there is a falling out between the groups. Clearly 5 come across something the FBMI don't like the look of, and remember the FBMI are here to protect people from paranormal threats, even though their secondary mission is to harness paranormal power for the benefit of the country. They must have deemed something too dangerous and told 5 to stop. Either way, the contract between the two comes to an end and 5 establish Somnium Microtechnologies, possibly building their research campus above Nesnivka, which is where the paranormal vortex of energy could be originating from, connecting our world to the dream world. 3 burglars are caught by Somnium security as they were in the campus taking photos of documents, and we are told the burglars all die shortly after being taken into custody, all suffering of similar dreams and hallucinations. We are also told that there could have been a 4th burglar, one that I believe may have went through the black door, the same one that Cole did. Anyway, after some time while Somnium work on the DreamViewer and the FBMI board who are keeping a close eye on them start having headaches and nightmares, Dr. Fowler and Director Lang meet up at Lang's home to discuss a peace treaty between the two bodies. Lang is shortly after found dead. Though there is no physical evidence of Fowler ever being there, there are only some notes from Lang mentioning it. It seems like the FBMI give up trying to regulate Somnium after this, realising how powerful Somnium and Dr. Fowler actually are. Which brings us to the present day in the timeline where Somnium DreamViewer is released to the wider public, and what happened to the FBMI board starts happening to consumers. They are all having nightmares, headaches and suffering from terrifying hallucinations. But as we see in the video hallucinations, these things they are seeing can be tangible and in our world. They are able to hurt you if you are alone in the dark and show enough fear, just like Somnium tell us not to do at their research campus. Now there is a call for a class action lawsuit from the Free Dreamers Society, who I hope we hear more from in new episodes. Also, throw into the mix the whole evidence tape story from Cole Sharp, an avid DreamViewer user, and we are introduced to the Black Door, this thing that seems to be able to teleport you from our dimension to the dream world and back. So what do I think's going on? I have no idea. All I know is Somnium are shady as shit. I've told you everything I've connected, and that's that. I don't think we can trust the FBMI 100%, especially if they've gone silent. Now, are they in bed with Somnium? Is this new director under Dr. Fowler's thumb? What is the purpose of the Black Door? What are these entities people see as hallucinations coming from the dream world? Who watches over the labyrinth? Is it Jean-Pierre or Dr. Fowler or some unknown eldritch being? All I know is there is a lot to do with mazes and being confused, and I think for a while, until we get the whole story, we will be a little lost and confused ourselves, and I love it. I hope I've done my job well and I've given you all a great rundown that you can actually understand and piece together yourselves as well. And I just want to say to the creator, you're doing an awesome job with this series, honestly. The writing and production value is fantastic, the voice actors have been awesome, and it has me at least super engaged. I think I speak for all the Somnium fans out there when I say we can't wait to see what 2023 brings for Somnium. And for all of you who might have been introduced to Somnium DreamViewer through this video, I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope this gave you a good base to go off of. And if you haven't already, make sure you go watch the series yourself. You will love it, especially if you're into analog horror. Thank you all so much for watching, I deeply appreciate it. I can't wait to see you all again in the next video.